Turo competitor and alternative car sharing platform Avail is in a lot of trouble. Now, Avail is a peer-to-peer car sharing platform that's absolutely a competitor to Turo, though it is quite a bit different. While Turo is a platform where vehicle owners rent out their own cars, Avail is more of a peer-to-peer car rental platform and a car management platform. Essentially, how it worked was you would drop your car off at the Avail location, which was at airports, and while the car was there, you would make passive income because the Avail team would manage the car for you, rent it out, and you would make money. And it seems as though there's really two different types of people that Avail is targeting through their platform, both of which are the more casual hosts. Avail hasn't been targeting people like myself who have 20 plus vehicles listed on platforms like Turo. Instead, Avail has been traditionally targeting people that may have an interest in car sharing, they may want to make side hustle income, but they may not have the ability or the interest in managing the cars themselves. And so if you were a car sharing host, you could buy a car, drop it off with Avail, and they would handle everything, though there was a 4-car cap per person, so you couldn't drop off a fleet of cars for Avail to manage. The second type of person that Avail targeted was the traveler. One of the early selling points of Avail was this idea that when you travel, you can drop your car off at the airport, Avail would take your car while you traveled, rent it out, and when you return, you would have made some passive income, you would have your car back, and you would have it cleaned for you. These were definitely the main selling points that Avail typically used in their marketing efforts to recruit new hosts. But in my opinion, as a car sharing host that's been in the business for over 5 years, the biggest downside of Avail was the management structure. Avail required newer cars that were in really good condition, and the way in which the host who actually owned the vehicle was paid was through a flat rate on a per daily basis, regardless of how much Avail was actually pricing that car out. And the exact amount would depend on the type of car. For example, an SUV would make more than a sedan. And while $25 to $35 may not seem like that bad, whenever you look at the types of cars that Avail required, it really wasn't the best ROI, especially whenever you take into account that if you were to put that exact same car on Turo, you could probably make 3 to 4 times that much per day. So while it was completely passive, and I can absolutely understand why people were attracted to the platform, in my opinion, it wasn't the best option. Avail at their peak operated at a variety of different airports throughout the country, including airports in Denver, Orlando, Charlotte, LA, and more. But today, they're only operating from 2, Denver and Chicago. And Avail seems to be very, very quiet about this. Because if you look on Google, you don't see anything about any closures of any Avail locations. If you look at Avail's website, you don't see any word about any of the past locations either. But if you look up individual Avail locations, the vast majority, with the exception of Chicago and Denver, come up as permanently closed. Now, I do want to give credit to Luke Brooks from the Passive Income Central YouTube channel. He's a course member of mine, and he was actually the one that let me know that this was happening. So basically, what seems to be happening is Avail is shutting down these locations throughout the entire United States, and the hosts that had between 1 and 4 cars listed on the platforms are being notified that they have to take repossession of their vehicles, and that Avail will no longer be hosting them because they've shut down. And now these hosts are in a very, very tough spot. They have to figure out what they're going to do with these cars. And this is especially problematic if these hosts have loans associated with them. And given the fact that Avail did require newer, nicer cars, I would be willing to bet that the vast majority of Avail hosts do in fact have loans associated with their vehicles. Which then begs the question of what are these hosts supposed to do? Do they keep the cars? Do they sell them? Do they put them on other platforms like Turo? Now, originally, these hosts were given the option to relocate their vehicles to different Avail locations that had a little bit more demand. For example, Denver or Chicago. But according to emails from Avail directly, this is no longer an option, and these locations are only open to local car sharing hosts in those cities, which leaves Avail hosts in other markets in a really tough situation. Again, huge thank you to Luke Brooks for providing this information. You should check out his channel. I will include a link to it down in the description below. He was a previous Avail car sharing host, and he is transitioning to Turo now that Avail has shut down. Now, if you are an Avail car sharing host who's wanting to make the leap and transition to Turo, or if you're just somebody who's interested in starting your own car sharing business, I am excited to say that my New Year's sale for my course, the Car Sharing Masterclass, has been extended until January 22nd. If you use the code NEWYEAR200, you can get 40% off the entire course and learn exactly how I've grown and scaled my Turo fleet to over 20 cars. Again, you can use the code NEWYEAR200 to get your discount. Now, this is obviously very unfortunate for anybody that's involved with Avail, both from a host perspective as well as from a corporate perspective. I certainly would never wish this upon any car sharing host, person, or employee, and it's a really unfortunate situation all the way around. But in a way, I also think that this is sort of a cautionary tale to every single car sharing host out there, and I think that what is happening right now with Avail is a really great example as to why you shouldn't spread yourself too thin with your car sharing business, regardless of how successful it is. And while when you look at it in hindsight, Avail of course has the highest likelihood of failing across all of the car sharing platforms because of the fact that it was the newest startup. But the reality is, even with more solidified businesses like Turo, there is always a chance that something could go wrong. And because of that, I am such a proponent of trying to play this game as safe as possible. And running a car sharing business a safe way may look different for different people. For me, it's buying all of my cars in cash, but for you, it might look different. And that's totally okay, and there isn't a right or wrong way to do it. But make sure that you're keeping this in mind, because in many cases, the worst case scenario can in fact happen, even if it's unlikely. Fortunately for Avail hosts, there are other car sharing platforms to explore, so they aren't completely out of luck, but it is a sticky situation nonetheless. Now, I did reach out to Avail requesting them for comment, and they have not responded yet, but if they do end up responding in the future, I will absolutely let you guys know. But as we sit here today, it does look as though all of the Avail locations have closed. They're no longer accepting or helping hosts relocate to other locations, and as of right now, it looks as though Denver and Chicago are the only two markets open and available. Now, if you are a car sharing host that had your vehicles listed on Avail and you're looking for an alternative out there, my 2 cents is that Turo and Getaround are by far the best options out there. You are beginning to see some smaller platforms pop up here and there. You also have HireCar, which is the 3rd largest car sharing platform out there, but I personally think that Getaround and Turo are really the only 2 worthwhile platforms that you should join. I think if you're somebody who's looking for a more passive experience, then Getaround would probably be the best option for you. Though Getaround and Turo are very similar in many ways, Getaround is significantly more passive and requires less time on a day-by-day basis. So if you're somebody who doesn't have a lot of spare time, you're not interested in checking in cars every single day, then Getaround could be a great option for you. While Getaround is great and there are a lot of good things about the platform, I personally like Turo better. I think that you can scale a fleet better on Turo. I think you can make more money on Turo. You maintain more control. They have better customer service. It is just a better platform all the way around, but it does require more time. So if you're not able to dedicate that time, then I would probably look into Getaround. At the end of the day, which platform you choose will depend on your market, what your expectations are with car sharing, as well as what types of cars you have. But there are certainly opportunities here to turn some lemons into lemonade. But like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.